While most people are going about their weekly shopping, a perfect storm is brewing. Global reports for 2026 project a massive food crisis, with costs already climbing due to labor shortages and new tariffs. This isn't about panic, it's about being prepared. I've spent months analyzing supply chains and consulting with insiders to identify 7 overlooked foods that are crucial for survival. These aren't the typical items you see everywhere. They are strategic choices to keep your family secure when store shelves go bare. In this video, I'm revealing my complete list. The final item is especially vital. It has life-saving uses most people are unaware of. Stay tuned, take notes, and let's get prepared together. 1. The fermentation foundation, active dry yeast. When people think about food storage, they almost always prioritize the heavy bulk items like flour or rice first, completely neglecting the catalyst required to make those staples edible and enjoyable. Active dry yeast is perhaps the most critically overlooked item in the modern prepper's inventory, yet it serves as the biological engine for turning raw grain into sustenance. The current fragility of the yeast supply chain is something few are discussing openly. Production facilities are already struggling with labor shortages, operating well below maximum capacity, and insiders suggest that even a minor disruption in the biological cultivation process could lead to months of unavailability. If you cannot bake bread because you lack this one tiny ingredient, your hundreds of pounds of stored flour become significantly harder to utilize effectively. Beyond just baking loaves of bread, yeast is the key to maintaining morale and normalcy during a crisis. Imagine a scenario where the grocery stores have been shuttered for weeks. Being able to produce fresh pizza dough, cinnamon rolls, or fluffy dinner rolls provides a psychological boost that is just as valuable as the calories themselves. Furthermore, yeast has applications beyond baking. It is essential for brewing certain fermented beverages which can provide critical calories and even trade value in a barter economy. The versatility of this single microorganism is unmatched, yet most people rely on buying it packet by packet, a strategy that is financially ruinous and logistically fragile. The financial argument for stockpiling yeast now is undeniable. If you are still buying those tiny 3-strip packets at the grocery store, you are paying an exorbitant markup for packaging. Smart stockpilers are bypassing the baking aisle entirely and heading to warehouse stores or restaurant supply outlets. By purchasing 1 or 2 pound vacuum-sealed bricks of yeast, you can lower your cost per ounce by over 400%. This isn't just about saving pennies, it's about allocating your resources efficiently so you can afford to stock more of everything else. Storage is the final piece of the puzzle that often confuses people. There is a persistent myth that freezing kills yeast, but the science says the exact opposite. Heat and moisture are the enemies of yeast. Cold is its best friend. Professional bakers know that freezing yeast puts the organisms into a state of suspended animation, essentially pausing their biological clock. By taking those bulk vacuum-sealed bricks and placing them deep in a chest freezer, you can extend the viable shelf life from the printed 2 years to 5 years, or potentially longer. This simple act turns a perishable baking ingredient into a long-term survival asset that will be worth its weight in gold when the supply lines dry up. 2. The longevity legumes, dry bulk beans. If meat becomes the luxury item that agricultural economists are predicting it will be by 2026, you need a backup plan for protein that doesn't rely on a functioning electrical grid or a weekly paycheck. This brings us to the second, and perhaps most vital, pillar of my stockpile: dry bulk beans. We aren't talking about the canned variety that is heavy, laden with sodium, and expensive to transport. We are talking about raw, dried legumes, black beans, pintos, lentils, and chickpeas. These are the nutritional powerhouses that have sustained civilizations for millennia, and they are about to become the most important item in your pantry. The economics of protein are shifting rapidly. With rising feed costs, water scarcity, and ethical regulations squeezing the livestock industry, the price of beef and poultry is on a trajectory to become unsustainable for the average family's daily consumption. Beans offer the highest protein per dollar ratio of any food source available today. They are nutrient-dense, packed with fiber, and contain essential minerals that are often lacking in processed emergency foods. But the real secret lies in their incredible longevity. While canned goods might last 2 to 5 years before the texture degrades or the can compromises, properly stored dried beans have an indefinite shelf life. We are talking about a food source that, if kept dry and cool, can remain edible for 30 years or more. However, simply tossing a few bags from the grocery store shelf into your closet is a recipe for disaster. The thin plastic bags used for retail packaging are not designed for long-term storage. They are permeable to air, moisture, and pests. To truly secure this asset, you must treat it like an investment. The gold standard for storage involves transferring bulk beans into food-grade, 5-gallon buckets lined with mylar bags and sealed with oxygen absorbers. This creates an anaerobic environment that prevents oxidation and kills off any potential weevil eggs that might be present. It sounds technical, but it is a simple process that guarantees your food security for decades. Furthermore, do not be fooled by the organic label markup when buying for deep storage. While organic is a nice preference for fresh produce, when you are buying hundreds of pounds of beans for survival, the nutritional variance between conventional and organic dried beans is negligible compared to the price difference. You can currently acquire conventional bulk beans for a fraction of the price of their organic counterparts. This price difference allows you to double or triple the volume of your stockpile for the same financial outlay. In a crisis, quantity and calorie count will matter far more than an organic certification stamp. By securing hundreds of pounds now at current prices, you are essentially hedging against future food inflation, locking in your family's protein needs at 2024 rates for consumption in a much more expensive 2026. 3. The eternal medicine, raw, unfiltered honey. The third item on my list is unique because it straddles the line between food and medicine, and it is the only food in the world that never spoils. I am referring to genuine, raw, unfiltered honey. Most people view honey merely as a sweetener for tea or toast, completely underestimating its immense strategic value in a grid-down or supply-constrained world. The global honey market is currently facing a perfect storm of collapsing bee populations and skyrocketing demand, meaning the affordable real honey we see today may soon be a thing of the past. Unlike sugar, which offers empty calories, raw honey is a complex biological substance containing enzymes, antioxidants, and trace minerals. But its value goes far beyond nutrition. Historically and in modern tactical medicine, raw honey is recognized for its potent antibacterial and antifungal properties. In a scenario where antibiotics are scarce or medical facilities are overwhelmed, a jar of raw honey becomes a critical first aid supply. It can be applied directly to wounds and burns to prevent infection and accelerate healing, creating a protective barrier against bacteria. This dual-use capability, as a high-energy calorie source and a topical medical treatment, makes it one of the most space-efficient items you can store. The key word here, however, is raw. The vast majority of honey sold in bear-shaped plastic bottles at the supermarket has been ultra-pasteurized and microfiltered. This processing destroys the beneficial enzymes and pollen that give honey its medicinal power, effectively turning it into expensive flavored syrup. Some commercial brands are even diluted with corn syrup or rice syrup to increase profits. To build a stockpile that actually works, you must source honey that is opaque, cloudy, and solidifying. If your honey crystallizes, do not throw it away. Celebrate it. Crystallization is the hallmark of purity and indicates that the natural sugars and pollen are still intact. It can easily be returned to liquid form with gentle warming. I strongly advise bypassing the grocery store entirely for this acquisition. Building a relationship with a local beekeeper is the smartest move you can make. Not only does this ensure you are getting 100% pure product, but buying in bulk, think gallon buckets or 5-gallon pails, drastically reduces the cost. When you buy local, you are also getting honey made from local pollen, which some suggest can help with seasonal allergies. But more importantly, you are securing a tangible asset that will be highly tradable. In a barter economy where paper currency loses value, a jar of pure, medicinal, eternal sweetener will command a premium. It is a forever food that requires no special packaging, no oxygen absorbers, and no rotation. You buy it once, you store it, and it will be there for you, unchanged whether you open it in 5 years or 50. 4. The lipid lifesaver, virgin coconut oil. Item number 4 is what I call the Swiss Army knife of survival nutrition. High-quality virgin coconut oil. If you were to look into the pantry of the average household today, you would likely find gallons of cheap vegetable, canola, or soybean oil. This is a fatal strategic error for long-term storage. The dirty secret of the modern food industry is that these polyunsaturated fats are highly unstable. Even in a sealed bottle, they begin to oxidize and go rancid within 6 to 12 months. Relying on a stockpile of rancid vegetable oil isn't just a culinary disaster. Consuming oxidized fats releases free radicals into the body, spiking inflammation and suppressing the immune system exactly when you need your health the most. Coconut oil operates on an entirely different biological level. Because it is comprised almost entirely of medium-chain triglycerides, MCTs, and saturated fats, it is chemically resistant to oxidation. I have personally tested jars stored in fluctuating temperatures for over 3 years, and upon opening, they smelled as sweet and fresh as the day they were pressed. This chemical stability means you are investing in a calorie source that will actually be edible when you need it in 2026, rather than a rancid liquid that could make your family ill. But the value here extends far beyond cooking. In a world without functioning pharmacies, coconut oil becomes a frontline medical asset. The high concentration of lauric acid in coconut oil gives it potent antibacterial, antifungal, and antiviral properties. In a survival situation where hygiene standards inevitably drop, minor skin irritations can quickly escalate into life-threatening infections. Coconut oil can be applied topically to treat fungal infections like athlete's foot, soothe cracked skin to prevent bacterial entry, and serve as a protective barrier for minor wounds. It is the only calorie source in your pantry that doubles as a functional first aid ointment. Furthermore, its utility is unmatched. In a total blackout, a simple piece of cotton string inserted into a jar of solid coconut oil creates a smoke-free candle that can burn for hours, providing both light and emergency fuel. When acquiring this asset, you must ignore the plastic tubs found in the baking aisle. Plastic is porous on a microscopic level and will eventually compromise the oil over years of storage. I strictly stockpile organic virgin coconut oil in glass jars. We are currently seeing prices for seed oils spike by 25% due to geopolitical harvest failures. And as the general public wakes up to the dangers of seed oils, the demand for stable saturated fats is projected to explode. Securing your supply now is a hedge against a future where healthy fat is a luxury item reserved for the wealthy. 5. The preservation heavyweight, agricultural curing salt. Item number 5 addresses the single biggest challenge of a grid-down scenario: how to keep food edible without electricity. This brings us to bulk agricultural or curing salt. I recently had a candid conversation with a regional distribution manager for a major salt supplier, and the intel he shared was alarming. While salt itself is abundant, the logistics of moving it are breaking down. Salt is incredibly heavy, and with transportation costs tripling over the last 2 years, the price of a standard 50-pound bag has jumped from $8 to nearly $25 in some markets. This trend is only accelerating, making bulk salt an investment that outperforms the stock market. However, the reason I stockpile hundreds of pounds of this specific coarse salt is not for seasoning dinner, it is for saving the rest of my food supply. If the grid fails and your freezer stops humming, you have arguably 48 hours before hundreds of dollars of meat spoils. With a sufficient stockpile of coarse curing salt, you can utilize traditional preservation techniques that date back centuries. By packing fresh meat in coarse salt, you draw out the moisture that bacteria need to survive, effectively curing the meat and rendering it shelf-stable for months without any refrigeration. I learned this technique from an old-time homesteader in Montana who lived through the lean years of the 1970s. He taught me that with nothing but salt and knowledge, you can hang meat in a root cellar or cool pantry for nearly a year. This transforms a potential total loss of frozen assets into a long-term protein supply. Most modern preppers have completely lost this skill, relying entirely on the fragile electrical grid. By stockpiling bulk agricultural salt now, you are buying an insurance policy for every other perishable item you own. It is the ultimate tool for food security, allowing you to buy fresh produce or meat in bulk when cheap, and preserve it for the lean times ahead without relying on a single watt of electricity. 6. The biological necessity, essential mineral salts. Item number 6 is distinct from the bulk curing salt mentioned above, and the distinction is vital. This is about salt as a biological necessity, specifically focusing on mineral-rich varieties like pink Himalayan salt. While we often vilify sodium in our modern diet, the reality is that in a high-stress survival scenario involving manual labor, salt deficiency is a rapid killer. The human body constantly hemorrhages sodium through sweat and stress responses. Without adequate replacement, the nervous system begins to misfire, muscles succumb to debilitating cramps, and eventually the heart's electrical signals can fail. You can survive weeks without food, but a severe electrolyte imbalance can incapacitate you in days. This is why I keep a dedicated supply of mineral-rich pink Himalayan salt separate from my curing supplies. Unlike stripped white table salt, pink salt contains dozens of trace minerals like magnesium, potassium, and calcium. In a crisis where dietary variety is limited and fresh vegetables are scarce, these trace minerals become absolutely critical for maintaining metabolic function. I view this not as a condiment, but as a daily supplement. Scientists have recovered salt from ancient Egyptian tombs that is over 4,000 years old and perfectly edible, proving that this is a forever food that never truly expires, if stored correctly. The storage methodology here is what separates the amateur from the professional. Moisture is the only enemy of salt, turning it into a solid, unusable brick. To combat this, I store my mineral salt in food-grade buckets sealed with gamma seal lids, which feature a rubber gasket to lock out humidity. Inside every bucket, I toss in several large food-grade silica gel packets. These desiccants aggressively absorb any ambient moisture trapped during opening, keeping the salt free-flowing indefinitely. By securing a lifetime supply of mineral salt now, you are effectively guaranteeing that your family's nervous systems will continue to function regardless of what happens to the external food supply chain. 7. The Liquid Medic Raw Apple Cider Vinegar. Item number 7 is perhaps the most underestimated item on this entire list. Raw apple cider vinegar, ACV, with the mother. My eyes were opened to the true power of this liquid last winter when my neighbor, an elderly woman named Janet, developed a severe respiratory infection during a period when local clinics were overwhelmed. Unable to see a doctor, she used a regimen of raw ACV and honey that I provided. Within days, her condition reversed, preventing what likely would have been a dangerous bout of pneumonia. This isn't folklore. The acetic acid in ACV creates an internal environment hostile to pathogens, while the mother, that cloudy sediment at the bottom of the bottle, is packed with probiotics and enzymes. The urgency to stockpile ACV now comes from a developing crisis in the orchards. I spoke with a commercial apple processor in Michigan who revealed that climate extremes, from late frost to severe droughts, are devastating the specific heritage apple varieties used for high-quality vinegar production. Yields are down 35% in some regions, and wholesale prices are climbing rapidly. We are facing a future where genuine, raw ACV becomes scarce and expensive. This is concerning because in a grid-down world, ACV acts as a primary regulator for blood sugar and digestion. When you are forced to switch to a diet heavy in preserved carbs and beans, digestive distress is guaranteed. ACV aids in breaking down these foods and stabilizing insulin spikes, keeping your energy levels consistent. Furthermore, its shelf life is practically infinite. The high acidity means it cannot spoil, mold, or go bad. I have seen records of 30-year-old vinegar that remain potent or ineffective. However, you must be careful with storage vessels. I never store ACV in plastic for the long term, as the acid can leach chemical compounds from the container walls. I transfer all my bulk vinegar into dark amber glass bottles or keep the original glass gallons in a cool, dark pantry. Whether used to boost immunity, sanitize surfaces, or regulate digestion, a robust supply of apple cider vinegar is the cheapest health insurance you can buy before the 2026 shortages hit. Bonus 8. The calorie-dense powerhouse, powdered whole milk. When we think of long-term food storage, we often focus on grains and beans, inadvertently creating a massive nutritional gap in fat and essential vitamins. This brings us to a critically underestimated asset, powdered whole milk. Most people, if they consider milk powder at all, reach for the non-fat variety due to its longer advertised shelf life. This is a significant mistake based on a misunderstanding of survival nutrition. In a crisis, fat is not the enemy. It is the most concentrated source of calories you can store. Your body requires dietary fat to absorb vital fat-soluble vitamins like A, D, E, and K, all of which are crucial for immune function, bone health, and blood clotting. Non-fat milk powder is essentially just sugar, lactose, and protein, lacking the caloric density and nutritional completeness your body will crave under stress. The primary argument against whole milk powder is its shorter shelf life due to the fat content, which can go rancid. However, this is easily mitigated with modern storage techniques. By purchasing whole milk powder packaged in nitrogen-flushed number 10 cans, the oxygen is removed, preventing oxidation and extending the viable shelf life to 15 years or more. For those buying in bulk bags, the same effect can be achieved by portioning the powder into mylar bags with oxygen absorbers before sealing them in food-grade buckets. This small extra step transforms a 2-year food into a decade-plus asset. The logistical and economic sense is undeniable. A single number 10 can of whole milk powder can be reconstituted to create over 5 gallons of nutrient-rich milk, providing a source of calcium, vitamin D, and high-quality animal protein long after fresh dairy has vanished from the planet. The versatility of powdered whole milk is where its true value shines. It is far more than just a beverage. It can be used to dramatically increase the caloric and nutritional content of other stored foods. A few scoops added to oatmeal, bread dough, or soups can turn a basic carbohydrate meal into a more complete and satisfying one. It is essential for creating cream-based sauces, puddings, and yogurts, if you have a culture, which provide a tremendous morale boost when the diet becomes monotonous. For families with children, a reliable supply of whole milk is non-negotiable. It provides the critical building blocks for growth that are simply not present in a diet of plain rice and beans. The current supply chain for dairy is notoriously fragile, relying on refrigeration from farm to store. Any prolonged power disruption would wipe out the fresh dairy supply in under a week. Powdered whole milk is the only logical way to secure this nutritional pillar for the long term. Bonus 9. The green insurance policy, sprouting seeds. One of the greatest challenges in a long-term crisis is the complete lack of fresh, living food. A diet composed entirely of stored, preserved items will eventually lead to nutrient deficiencies, particularly in vitamin C and active enzymes, resulting in suppressed immunity and conditions like scurvy. The most efficient, space-effective, and sustainable solution to this problem is a robust supply of sprouting seeds. I am not talking about garden seeds for planting outdoors, but seeds specifically intended for indoor sprouting, such as alfalfa, broccoli, mung bean, lentil, and radish seeds. These tiny dormant seeds represent a living pantry that can be activated with nothing more than water. The nutritional transformation that occurs during sprouting is nothing short of miraculous. A dry lentil seed, for example, becomes a living plant bursting with bioavailable vitamins, minerals, and enzymes. The vitamin C content in some seeds can increase by over 600% within just a few days of sprouting. This means you can produce a continuous supply of fresh, nutrient-dense micro-vegetables on your kitchen counter, regardless of the season or what is happening outside. A single pound of alfalfa seeds can produce over 10 pounds of fresh sprouts, making it one of the most weight-efficient nutritional sources you can possibly store. This is your insurance policy against vitamin deficiency, providing the fresh greens your body needs to fight off infection and maintain cellular health. The process is incredibly simple and requires no soil, sunlight, or electricity. All you need is a wide-mouth glass jar, a mesh screen lid, and clean water. The seeds are soaked, rinsed twice a day, and within 3 to 5 days you have a jar full of fresh, crunchy, nutrient-packed food. The low cost and incredible shelf life of these seeds make them a top-tier prep. Stored in a cool, dark, and dry place, sprouting seeds can remain viable for 5 to 10 years, sometimes longer. Unlike canned vegetables, which suffer nutrient degradation over time, sprouts are always fresh and at their peak nutritional value the moment you eat them. The morale boost of eating something fresh and green during a time of scarcity cannot be overstated. It provides a taste and texture that is desperately missed in a diet of dry goods, improving mental well-being just as much as physical health. Securing a diverse supply of different sprouting seeds ensures you have access to a wide spectrum of vitamins and minerals, safeguarding your family's health from the inside out. Bonus 10. The ultimate barter item, coffee and tea. While not a source of calories, the strategic value of coffee and tea in a prolonged crisis cannot be overstated. These items cater to one of the most powerful and predictable forces of human nature, addiction and the desire for normalcy. The world runs on caffeine. A sudden, total cutoff would lead to mass withdrawal symptoms, headaches, irritability, lethargy, and depression, at a time when people need to be at their sharpest. This biological dependency makes coffee and tea one of the most potent and reliable barter items in a post-collapse economy, potentially more valuable than ammunition or even precious metals in the short term. The person who can provide a neighbor with a simple cup of coffee to stave off a withdrawal headache holds immense leverage. From a supply chain perspective, both coffee and tea are incredibly vulnerable. They are grown in specific climates far from North America and rely on a complex global network of shipping, processing, and distribution. Any disruption to international trade, port operations, or fuel availability will cause these items to vanish from shelves almost overnight. We saw a preview of this during the 2020-2021 shipping container crisis, where prices spiked and availability faltered. For long-term storage, you must choose the right format. For coffee, this means whole grain, unroasted beans. Roasted coffee, even vacuum-sealed, goes stale and loses its potency within a year. Green coffee beans, however, can be stored in a cool, dark place for 10 years or more, and can be pan-roasted in small batches as needed, providing a fresh, potent product on demand. For tea, the best option is loose-leaf black or green tea, vacuum-sealed in Mylar bags. These teas retain their flavor and caffeine content for many years, far longer than standard paper-wrapped tea bags. The strategic value goes beyond caffeine. Herbal teas like chamomile, peppermint, and ginger become critical medicinal assets when pharmaceuticals are unavailable. Chamomile can be used to calm anxiety and aid sleep. Peppermint can soothe digestive issues, and ginger is a powerful anti-inflammatory and anti-nausea remedy. Stockpiling a variety of both caffeinated and herbal teas creates a versatile chest of goods that can be used for personal comfort, medical treatment, and high-value trade. In a world stripped of its daily rituals, the simple act of brewing and sipping a hot cup of tea or coffee provides a psychological anchor, a moment of peace and normalcy that is profoundly powerful. Underestimating this human need is a mistake that unprepared individuals will quickly regret.